Now, this isn't a musical, so you don't have to worry about people bursting into paano bang magmahal? The Breakup playlist is directed by Dan Villegas, written by Antoinette Hadaune, and stars Sara Geronimo and Piola Pascual. And the Breakup playlist is about the relationship between Trixie and Gino, these two musicians. Trixie, played by Sara Geronimo, is this up-and-coming singer-songwriter who hits it big at this music camp, while Gino is a judge at that music camp. He's this big rock star. He's played by Piola Pascual, and he's really impressed by Trixie and invites her to become part of his new band. And we get to see like the relationship kind of rise and fall and rise and fall. Now, before I say anything about this movie, there's this really stupid article posted on ABS-CBN talking about how, like, 5 reasons why the Breakup playlist is a better movie than Begin Again. I don't understand why this article was written. You really can't compare these two movies just because they're about musicians. They're completely different. I enjoyed both of them pretty equally for different reasons, and I did enjoy the Breakup playlist despite, for me, an imperfect script. There was a really interesting narrative structure going on in there and strong performances from the two leads. Now, this is a movie about music, so of course I expect like the sound to be pretty good, and the sound is kind of inconsistent, but for the most part it is very well mixed. You can really see this during scenes during which people sing, and whenever they sing they sound different depending on where they are, which I thought was really cool. Like when you first hear Trixie sing in front of like this crowd on a beach, there's still lots of background noise, and it does feel very authentic. It feels very grounded, and I really, really like that. And yes, this movie is told in a non-linear fashion, which I think they used kind of intelligently, because the way they split up the events and the way they jump around from the different timelines and whatnot, really kind of separates the events into chapters that end up highlighting different aspects of the relationship. Because deep down, if you put everything in chronological order, it is pretty much the same rom-com formula, but the way they structure it helps guide the audience to certain themes that the movie wants us to focus on, but without being didactic, and I think that was really, really cool of them to do. And the script itself, I think, has merit because of how it really kind of substantially explores how two musicians interact. There's a different kind of flavor here to the rom-com formula because it's a different context, the way Trixie and Gina share their experiences, or the way they argue even. And speaking of those arguments, like I really, really enjoyed like the tampuhan scenes more than the actual fights. When they're both mad at each other but they don't want to confront it. Like I thought those scenes were a lot scarier than the actual fights. Now, I'm usually annoyed by Sara Geronimo when she plays these loud characters in her rom-coms with John Lloyd Cruz, but here she's actually very restrained, and I really, really liked her in this movie. She manages to shed her superstar image, especially when she sings. Like I don't see her as this huge pop star who can sing amazingly. Like she really tones it down, which is very impressive. Piola Pascual is so much more authentic as well and nuanced than just like a pretty face. Like he deserves a lot more recognition than just his looks, because I really did feel like his shifts in personality were coming from the same place. Like he's really in love with Trixie, but at the same time he's harboring a lot of jealousy towards her as well. And it's really cool. Like I really understood him. I really got where all these emotions were coming from, even if he was acting irrationally sometimes. And the director Dan Villegas is proving that he understands how to ground a romantic comedy by not just kind of directing the script into like a glorified stage play, which is what I feel like a lot of local rom-coms do. Like he understands how the medium of film itself can be used to enhance storytelling, and despite the shifting tones throughout the story, he really manages to keep the story on track. So he had English Only Please, and he had this, and I think he's gonna do a really good job in future rom-coms too. However, I did have issues with the movie. For one, I guess my biggest problem was that I really didn't really buy the fact that Trixie and Gino actually fell in love in the first place. Like I kind of had to suspend my disbelief after a certain point, and I was fine after that. But at the beginning I thought it was kind of rocky, because when they first get into the relationship, there seems to be some resistance from Trixie that they never actually address ever again. Like I'm sure it was intentional, because the way it was directed, the way it was acted by Sara Geronimo, it really felt like she was hesitant about it, but then they just go into the relationship anyway, and it's all fine and dandy. And there are certain character relationships that are completely rushed, like, in the present day, Trixie and Gina are supposed to be mentoring these two up-and-coming singers, and it's supposed to be like a parallel relationship sort of thing, but like you don't feel it at all. You don't care about these kids whatsoever. And there's this whole backstory about Trixie's family not approving of her dreams to become a musician, and they literally just completely ditch that storyline and resolve it at the very end with like one tiny shot during the credit scene. And for a movie about musicians, they only play like 2 songs in this movie. I mean, I don't mean in the sense that there are only 2 scenes where they play music. They play music a lot in this movie, but they only like play 2 songs. Like they raise their heads with a smile, and they play Paano Bang Magmahal, and it gets really annoying. It gets stuck in your head at the end of the movie in a bad way. And I get that musicians rehearse over and over again, but when you show that to an audience, it will get annoying. But in the end, I will still say that the Breakup Playlist is a pretty good movie. Like, I think we're really on our way to kind of modifying the romantic comedy genre so that, you know, it stays formulaic, but there's enough variation in there that the genre keeps itself alive. Alright, so those are my thoughts on the Breakup Playlist. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.